accept that service, even if it is offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. For the devotees, liberation or mukti is very unimportant because having attained the Lord's transcendental love and service, they have attained everything desirable and have transcended all material desires. Haribol. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Devotional service unto the Lord is the highest attainment for anyone desiring liberation from the tribulations of material existence. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 6.22, Yam Ladva Chaparam Lavam Manyate Nadikam Pita. Gaining this, one thinks there is no greater gain. In other words, once you become Krishna conscious, you become convinced that this is the best achievement you can have in spiritual life. When one attains the service of the Lord, which is non-different from the Lord, one does not desire anything material. Mukti means relief from material existence. Vilmabangala Thakura says, Mukti Mukhu Litanjalai Nakanjali Sevateshman. For a devotee, mukti is not a very great achievement. Mukti means being situated in one's constitutional position. The constitutional position of every living being is that of the Lord's servant. Therefore, when a living entity is engaged in the Lord's loving service, he has already attained mukti, of liberation. Consequently, a devotee does not aspire for mukti, even if it is offered by the Supreme Lord Himself. So mukti means relief from the material existence. However, for a devotee, mukti is not a very great achievement. Mukti means being situated in one's constitutional position. The constitutional position of every living being is that of the Lord's servant. Therefore, when a living entity is engaged in the Lord's loving service, he has already attained mukti. Consequently, a devotee does not aspire for mukti, even if it is offered by the Supreme Lord Himself. Well, why is that? Because it's already attained mukti by engaging in devotional service. Okay, text number 18. Sukadeva Goswami continued, My dear king, the Supreme Person, Mukunda, is actually the maintainer of all the members of the Pandava and Yadu dynasties. That's a lot of people. He is your spiritual master, worshipable deity, friend, and director of your activities. To say nothing of this, he sometimes serves your family as a messenger or servant. This means he worked just as ordinary servants do. Those engaged in getting the Lord's favor attain liberation from the Lord very easily, but he does not very easily give the opportunity to render direct service unto him. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. While instructing Maharaj Parikshit, Sukadeva Goswami thought it wise to encourage the king because the king might be thinking of the glorious position of various royal dynasties. Especially glorious is the dynasty of Priyavata, in which the Supreme Lord Rishabhadeva incarnated. Similarly, the family of Uttanapada Maharaja, the father of Maharaj Dhruva, is also glorious due to King Prithu's taking birth in it. The dynasty of Maharaj Raghu is glorified because Lord Ramachandra appeared in that family. As far as the Yadu and Kuru dynasties are concerned, they existed simultaneously, but of the two, the Yadu dynasty was more glorious due to the appearance of Lord Krishna. Maharaj Parikshit might have been thinking that the Kuru dynasty was not as fortunate as the others because the Supreme Lord did not appear in that family, neither as Krishna, Lord Ramachandra, Lord Rishabhadev, or Maharaj Prithu. Therefore, Parikshit Maharaja was encouraged by Sukadeva Goswami in this particular verse. The Kuru dynasty may be considered more glorious due to the presence of devotees like the five Pandavas, who rendered unalloyed devotional service, although Lord Krishna did not appear in the Kuru dynasty. He was so obligated to the Pandavas' devotional service that he acted as the maintainer of the family and spiritual master of the Pandavas. Although he took birth in the Yadu dynasty, Lord Krishna was more affectionate to the Pandavas. By his actions, Lord Krishna proved that he was more inclined to the Kuru dynasty than the Yadu dynasty. Indeed, Lord Krishna, indebted to the Pandavas' devotional service, sometimes acted as their messenger, and he guided them through many dangerous situations. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit should not have been saddened because Lord Krishna did not appear in his family. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always inclined towards his pure devotees, and by his action it is clear that liberation is not very important for the devotees. Lord Krishna easily gives one liberation, but he does not so easily give one the facility to become a devotee. Muktim dadati karichit smana bhakti yogam. Directly or indirectly, it is proved that bhakti yoga is the basis for the supreme relationship with the Supreme Lord. It is far superior to liberation. For a pure devotee of the Lord, mukti is automatically attained. So bhakti yoga is the basis for the supreme relationship with the Supreme Lord. And it is far superior to liberation. For a pure devotee of the Lord, mukti is automatically attained. Hare Krishna. Text 19, translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabhadeva, was fully aware of his true identity. Therefore, he was self-sufficient, and he did not desire external gratification. There was no need for him to aspire for success, since he was complete in himself. Those who unnecessarily engage in bodily conceptions and create an atmosphere of materialism are always ignorant of their real self-interest. Yeah, well, the real self-interest is to be Krishna conscious, not to have a lot of badges of success in the material world. Out of his causeless mercy, Lord Rishabhadeva taught the self's real identity and the goal of life. We therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto the Lord who appeared as Lord Rishabhadeva. Well, the Lord was very merciful, and therefore he taught the self's real identity. Yeah, real identity of the self is the eternal servant of Krishna, engaging always in devotional service to please the Lord. And the goal of life is to please the Lord and engage in Krishna conscious activities always with love and devotion. That's the main thing, with love and devotion. Purport. This is the summary of this chapter, in which the activities of Lord Rishabhadeva are described. Being the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, Lord Rishabhadeva is complete in himself. We living entities, as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, should follow the instructions of Lord Rishabhadeva and become self-sufficient. Okay, that means that you're not dependent on anyone else. You're completely dedicated to serving Krishna without any material, let's say, desires. We should not create unnecessary demands due to the bodily conception. When one is self-realized, he is sufficiently satisfied due to being situated in his original spiritual position. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 1854, Brahmabhuta Prasanatma Natsochiti Nakshati. This is the goal of all living entities. Well, when one attains this position of Brahmabhuta, he's Prasanatma is completely satisfied without any lamentation and Natsochiti Nakshati and any discomfort. He's happily situated. This is the goal of all living entities. Even though one may be situated within this material world, he can become fully satisfied and devoid of hankering, meaning hankering means extreme uh, desires and lamentation, simply by following the instructions of the Lord as set forth in Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. Satisfaction through self-realization is called Svarupananda. The conditioned soul, eternally sleeping in darkness, does not understand his self-interest. He simply tries to become happy by making material adjustments. Doesn't work. But this is impossible. It is therefore said in Srimad Bhagavatam, Nate vidusvartagatim hi Vishnam. Due to gross ignorance, the conditioned soul does not know that his real self-interest is to take shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Vishnu, take shelter at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. To try to become happy by adjusting the material atmosphere is a useless endeavor. Indeed, it is impossible. By his personal behavior and instructions, Lord Rishabhadeva enlightened the conditioned soul and showed him how to become self-sufficient in his spiritual identity, not his material identity. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fifth canto, sixth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled the activities of Lord Rishabhadeva. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Hare
Hare
Ram,
Ram,
Ram
Ram
Ram.
Ram, Hare Hare.
Okay, now we'll go on to the activities of King Bharata, chapter 7.
Hmm.
In this chapter, the activities of King Bharata Maharaj, the emperor of the whole world, are described. Bharat Maharaja performed various ritualistic ceremonies, Vedic yajnas, and satisfied the Supreme Lord by his different modes of nature of words, modes of worship. In due course of time, he left home and resided in Harivilas and passed his days in devotional activity. Being ordered by his father, Lord Rishabhadeva, Bharat Maharaja married Panchajani, the daughter of Vishwarupa. After this, he ruled the whole world peacefully. Formerly, this planet was known as Ajanava, and after the reign of Bharat Maharaj, it became known as Bharatvarsha. Bharata Maharaj begot 5 sons in the womb of Panchajani, and he named the sons Sumati, Rashtrabrita, Sudarshana, Abharana, and
Dhumraketu.
Dhumraketu. Bharat Maharaj was very rigid in executing religious principles and following the footsteps of his father. He therefore ruled the citizens very successfully. Because he performed various yagyas to satisfy the Supreme Lord, he was personally very satisfied. Being of undisturbed mind, he increased his devotional activities unto Lord Vasudeva. Bharata Maharaja was competent in understanding the principles of saintly persons like Narada, and he followed in the footsteps of the sages. He also kept Lord Vasudeva constantly within his heart. After finishing his kingly duties, he divided his kingdom among his 5 sons. He then left home and went to the place of Pulaha, known as Pula Ashrama. There he ate forest vegetables. Ah, that's nice. Nice fresh vegetables like we're going to have in when we go on our uh, retreat. Uh, so it says he ate forest vegetables and fruits and worshipped Lord Vasudeva with everything available. Thus, he increased his devotion toward Vasudeva. And he automatically began to realize further his transcendental, blissful life. Due to his highly advanced spiritual position, there were sometimes visible in his body and the Ashtasattvica transformations, such as ecstatic crying and bodily trembling, which are symptoms of the love of Godhead. It is understood that Maharaj Bharata worshipped the Supreme Lord with mantras mentioned in the Veda, generally known as Gayatri Mantra, which aim at the Supreme Narayana situated within the Sun, Sun. Okay. Well, uh, There's a lot of information here. The Astasattvika transformations, such as ecstatic crying and bodily trembling, which are symptoms of love of Godhead. It is understood that Maharaj Bharata worshipped the Supreme Lord with the mantras mentioned in the Rig Veda, generally known as Gayatri Mantra, which aim at the Supreme Narayana situated within the sun. Text number 1. Sukadeva Goswami continued speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. My dear king, Bharat Maharaja was a topmost devotee, following the orders of his father, who had already decided to install him on the throne. He began to rule the earth accordingly. When Bharat Maharaja ruled the entire globe, he followed the orders of his father and married Panchajani, the daughter of Viswarupa. Okay, that's high quality, uh, high quality people here. Text 2. Just as the false ego creates the subtle sense objects, Maharaja Bharata created 5 sons in the womb of Panchajani, his wife. These sons were named Sumati, Rashtrabrita, Sudarshana, Avarana, and Dhrum Raketu. Text number 3. Formerly, this planet was known as Ajanaba Varsa, but since Maharaj Bharata's reign, it has become known as Bharat Varsa. Purport. This planet was formerly known as Ajanaba because of the reign of King Nabi. After Bharata Maharaja ruled the planet, it became celebrated as Bharata Varsa. Text 4. Maharaj Bharata was very learned and experienced, and experienced king on this earth. He perfectly ruled the citizens, being himself engaged in his own respective duties. Maharaj Bharata was as affectionate to the citizens as his father and grandfather had been. Oh, that's a good dynasty right there. Keeping them engaged in their occupational duties, he ruled the earth. Yeah, everybody has an occupational duty. And they're not like lazy bums, smoking marijuana and doing nonsense. Purport. It is most important that the chief executive rules the citizens by keeping them fully engaged in their respective occupational duties. There it is. Some of the citizens were Brahmanas, some were Kshatriyas, and some were Vaishyas and Sudras. It is the duty of the government to see that the citizens act according to these material divisions for their spiritual advancement. No one should remain unemployed or unoccupied in any way. One must work as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra on the material path. And on the spiritual path, everyone should act as a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. Although formerly the government was a monarchy, all the kings were very affectionate toward the citizens, and they strictly kept them engaged in their respective duties. Therefore, society was very smoothly conducted. Very important. Okay, so uh, although formerly the government was a monarchy, all the kings were very affectionate toward the citizens, and they strictly kept them engaged in their uh, respective duties. Therefore, society was very smoothly conducted. Text 5. With great faith, King Bharata performed various kinds of sacrifice. He performed the sacrifices known as Agni Putra, fire sacrifice, Darsa, Purna Masa, Chaturmasa, Pasu Yajna, wherein a horse is sacrificed, and Soma Yajna, wherein a kind of beverage is offered. Sometimes these sacrifices were performed completely and sometimes partially. In any case, all the sacrifices, the regulations of Chaturhotra were strictly followed. In this way, Bharata Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of God. Well, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we don't have to perform all those sacrifices that are mentioned here. Because ultimately, by just being Krishna conscious, all those other sacrifices are performed automatically. Meaning that the perfection of offering sacrifices to the Lord is Krishna consciousness, completely dedicated to serving the Lord with love and devotion. Purport. Animals like hogs and cows were offered in sacrifice to test the proper execution of the sacrifice. Now, what would they do? They would put the hogs or the cows into the fire of sacrifice, and holding onto their tails, they would chant mantras, and then they would pull the hogs and cows out from the fire, rejuvenated into young hogs and cows, not burned to a crisp like a barbecue. But in Kali Yuga, those type of sacrifices are not permitted anymore, because in this age we don't have the level of purity of previous times, and therefore, if we do those type of sacrifices, we just end up with charged bodies of hogs and cows. But because some nonsense uh, people continue to do those type of sacrifices, they end up with a charred body of a um, cow or a hog, and then the phony uh, pundits say, "Oh, this is Mahaprasadam." That's why the Vedic traditions have become contaminated and made a joke of. Otherwise, there was no purpose in killing the animal. Actually, the animal was offered in a sacrificial fire to get a rejuvenated life. Yes, that can't happen anymore. Therefore, these type of sacrifices are forbidden in Kali Yuga because the people uh, don't know how to say the mantras, and their uh, result is they unnecessarily kill animals and then think that they have performed the sacrifice. But all they're doing is killing the animal and then eating it, thinking that they have done something good. But actually, what they've done is abominable. Actually, the animal was offered in a sacrificial fire to get a rejuvenated life. In other words, you put an old animal in the fire, and if you say the mantras correctly, you can pull the animal out from the fire, rejuvenated into a young animal. Generally, an old animal was sacrificed in the fire, and it would come out again in a youthful body. See, there it is. Some of the rituals, however, did not require animal sacrifice. In the present age, animal sacrifices are forbidden, as stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But even though they're forbidden, people still do them, unfortunately. Aswamedam Gavalambam Sanyasam Pala Paitrikam Devarena Stuto Patim Kalo Pancha Vivarjayet. In the age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden. This is very important. The offerings of a horse in sacrifice, and the offering of a cow in sacrifice. The acceptance of the order of sannyasa, the offering, and so that means that the order of sannyasa, it doesn't refer to sannyasis in Krishna consciousness, but other types of sannyasa are forbidden. Orders of sannyasa, the offering of oblations of flesh to the forefathers, and a man's begetting children in his brother's wife. All those things are forbidden in Kali Yuga. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 17.164. Such sacrifices are impossible in this age due to the scarcity of expert brahmanas or Ritvija, who are able to take responsibility. In the absence of these, the Sankirtan Yajna is recommended. Yajna Sankirtana Paraya Yajanti Hi Sumeda Saha. Bhagavatam 11:532. After all, sacrifices are executed to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yajnartha Karmana. Such activities should be carried out for the Supreme Lord's pleasure. In this age of Kali, the Supreme Lord, in his incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, should be worshipped with his associates by performance of Sankirtan Yajna, the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This process is accepted by intelligent men. Yajnai Sankirtana Parar Yajante Hi Sumedasaha. The word Sumedesa refers to intelligent men who possess very good brain substance. Yeah, so they don't barbecue animals and call it a sacrifice. Unfortunately, there are still people doing things like that, but it's forbidden in the age of Kali Yuga because they can barbecue the animal, unfortunately, but they can't rejuvenate it. So therefore, they have no right to barbecue the animals. And the reason that they would barbecue an animal in previous time was only because they could rejuvenate the animal. But now, if you barbecue the animal dies. So therefore, they're forbidden. Those type of sacrifices in Kali Yuga are forbidden. After performing the preliminaries of various sacrifices, Maharaj Bharata offered the results in the name of religion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, all activities in Krishna consciousness are offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, named Vasudeva. Okay. In other words, he performed all the yagas for the satisfaction of Lord Vasudeva Krishna. Maharaja Bharata thought that since the demigods were different parts of Vasudeva's body, he controls those who are explained in the Vedic mantras. By thinking in this way, Maharaj Bharata was freed from all material contamination, such as attachment, lust, and greed. When the priests were about to offer the sacrificial ingredients into the fire, Maharaj Bharata expertly understood how the offering made to different demigods was simply an offering to the different limbs of the Lord. That's nice. For instance, Indra is the arm of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Surya, the sun, is his eyes. Thus, Maharaj Bharata considered that the oblations offered to the different demigods were actually offered unto the different limbs of Lord Vasudeva. Well, that's the correct vision of a devotee. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says that as long as one does not develop the pure devotional service of Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing, and chanting, one must carry out his prescribed duties. Since Bharat Maharaja was a great devotee, one may ask why he performed so many sacrifices that are actually meant for karmis. The fact is that he was simply following the orders of Vasudeva. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharmam Parityaja, Amekam Saranam Braja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Bhagavad Gita 1866. Whatever we do, we should constantly remember Vasudeva, meaning Krishna. People are generally addicted to offering obeisances to various demigods. But Bharata Maharaja simply wanted to please Lord Vasudeva, meaning Krishna. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktaram Yajatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Bhagavad Gita 5:29. A yajna may be carried out to satisfy a particular demigod, but when the yajna is offered to the yajna Purusha, Narayana, the demigods are satisfied. So you don't have to satisfy each demigod, you simply have to satisfy Krishna, and all the demigods are satisfied. The purpose of performing different yajnas is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. One may perform them in the name of different demigods or directly. If we directly offer oblations to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demigods are automatically satisfied. There it is. Therefore, it's not necessary to worship all the demigods. It's simply worship Lord Krishna, and the demigods are satisfied. If we water the root of a tree, the branches, twigs, fruits, and flowers are automatically satisfied. When one offers sacrifices to different demigods, one should remember that the demigods are simply parts of the body of the Supreme. If we worship a hand of a person, we intend to satisfy the person himself. If we massage a person's legs, we do not really serve the legs, but the person who possesses the legs. All the demigods are different parts of the Lord. And if we offer service to them, we actually serve the Lord Himself. Demigod worship is mentioned in Rama Samhita, but actually the slokas advocate worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda. For instance, worship of the goddess Durga is mentioned this way in Rama Samhita 544. Shristi stati pralaya sadha sadhana saktireka chayevayasya bhuvanani vibhakti Durga. Ichalana rupam abhyasya chachestatesa govindam madhipurusham tamaham bhajami. Following the orders of Sri Krishna, the goddess Durga creates, maintains, and annihilates. Sri Krishna also confirms this statement in Bhagavad Gita, Mayadakshena Prakriti Suyate Cha Suyate Sa Charachara. This material nature is working under my direction. It's not under Durga's direction, it's under Krishna's direction. O son of Kunti, and is producing all moving and unmoving beings. Bhagavad Gita 9:10. We should worship the demigods in that spirit. Why? What does that mean, in that spirit? Well, all the demigods are the servants of Krishna. So if we worship Lord Krishna, all the demigods will be satisfied. We should worship the demigods in that spirit because the goddess, Durga, satisfies Krishna. We should therefore offer respects to Goddess Durga. Because Lord Shiva is nothing but Krishna's functional body, we should therefore offer respects to Lord Shiva. Similarly, we should offer respects to Brahma, Agni, and Surya. There are many offerings to different demigods, and one should always remember that these offerings are usually meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality Godhead. Bharat Maharaja did not aspire to receive some benediction from the demigods. His aim was to please the Supreme Lord. In the Mahabharata, among the 1,000 names of Vishnu, it is said, Yajna, Mug, Yajna, Krid, Yajna, the enjoyer of Yajna, the performer of Yajna, and the Yajna itself are the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the performer of everything, but out of ignorance, the living entity thinks that he is the actor. As long as we think we are the actors, we bring about karma bandha, bondage to activity. If we act for yajna, for Krishna, there is no karma bandha, no entanglement of karma. Yajnartat karmanonya loko yam karma bandhana. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Bhagavad Gita 3.9. Following the instructions of Bharata Maharaja, we should act not for our personal satisfaction, but for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita 17:28, it is also stated, Ashradadaya Kutam Datam Tapastaptam Kritam Chaya Asad iti uchite partha nachatat pritya no iha. Sacrifices, austerities, and charities performed without faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead are non-permanent. Regardless of whatever rituals are performed, they are called asat, not bona fide or non-permanent. They are therefore useless. both in this life and in it. Yeah. So without faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all these so-called yajnas that are performed are useless. Kings like Maharaj Ambarisha and many other Rajarsis who were pure devotees of the Lord simply passed their time in the service of the Supreme Lord. When a pure devotee executes some service through the agency of another person, he should not be criticized, for his activities are meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. A devotee may have a priest perform some karma kanda, and the priest may not be a pure Vaishnava. But because the devotee wants to please the Supreme Lord, he should not be criticized. The word apurva is very significant. The resultant actions of karma are called apurva. When we act piously or impiously, immediate results do not ensue. We therefore wait for the results, which are called apurva. The results are manifest in the future. Even the smartas accept this apurva. Pure devotees simply act for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the results of their activities are spiritual or permanent. They are not like those of the karmis, which are non-permanent. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4:23. Gata sangasya muktasya jnana avastita chetasa yajna acharata karma samagram praviliyate. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in the transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. A devotee is always free from material contamination. He is fully situated in knowledge, and therefore his sacrifices are intended for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All right, so that means no more Kali uh, uh, worship, no more uh, worship of the demigods, no more worship of the demons. You should only worship Krishna and engage in pure devotional service to the Lord. Okay, text number 7. In this way, being purified by ritualistic sacrifices, the heart of Maharaj Bharata was completely uncontaminated. His devotional service unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, increased day by day. See, now he was not worshiping any other demigod, he was simply worshiping Krishna. Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, is the original personality of God, manifest as the super soul, Paramatma, as well as the impersonal Brahman. Yogis meditate upon the localized Paramatma situated in the heart. Jnanis worship the impersonal Brahman as the supreme absolute truth. And devotees worship Vasudeva or Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, whose transcendental body is described in the Shastras. His body is decorated with the Srivatsa, the Kostuba jewel, and a flower garland, and his hands hold a conch shell disc club, the lotus flower. Devotees like Narada always think of him within their hearts. Okay, so now we have a validation of what is the uh, the the bona fide form of the Lord that should be worshipped. That's why it says yogis meditate upon his localized Paramatma. Uh, 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 Yogis meditate upon the localized Paramatma situated in the heart. Jnanis worship the impersonal Brahman as the supreme absolute truth. And devotees worship Vasudeva, meaning Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, whose transcendental body is described in the Shastras. His body is decorated with the Srivatsa, the Kostuba jewel, and a flower garland, and his hands hold a conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower. Devotees like Narada always think of him within their hearts. All right, so now we have a way of validating what is proper service and what is bogus service. We have to serve Krishna, whose transcendental body is described in the Shastras. His body is decorated with the Srivatsa, the uh,
Kostuba.
Kostuba.
and
Jewel.
his transcendental body is described in the Shastras. His body is decorated with the Srivatsa, the Kostoba jewel, and a flower garment, and his hands hold a conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower. Devotees like Narada always think of him within their hearts. So this is a correct, let's say, validation of worshiping the actual Supreme Personality of Godhead and not some demigod or some so-called uh, uh, deity that is a figment of one's speculation. Purport: Lord Vasudeva, or Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, is the Supreme Personality of God. He is manifest within the hearts of yogis in the Paramatma feature, and he is worshipped as impersonal Brahman by the Jnanis. The Paramatma feature is described in the Shastras as having four hands, holding disc, conch shell, lotus flower, and club, as confirmed in the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.2.8. Kechit swadeham par hirdaya vakase pradesa matram purusham vasantam chaturbhujam kanja ratanga sankhya gada dharam dharayana samaranti. Paramatma is situated in the hearts of all living entities. He has four hands, which hold four symbolic weapons. All devotees who think of the Paramatma within the heart worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the temple deity. They also understand the impersonal features of the Lord and his bodily rays, the Brahman effulgence. Text number 8. Destiny fixed the time for Maharaj Bharata's enjoyment of material opulence at 1,000 times, 10,000 years. And you see, for everybody, every one of us, our time for enjoyment of material opulence is limited. Now, Maharaj Bharata had a much longer time of enjoyment of material opulence because he was living in a different period. But today, our enjoyment of material opulence is maybe uh, 40 years or 50 years, then our body starts deteriorating and we don't really enjoy sense gratification that much after that. But here we see that the opulence of Maharaj Bharata, the enjoyment of material opulence at 1,000 times 10,000 years. When that period was finished, he retired from family life and divided the wealth he had received from his forefathers among his sons. He left the paternal home, the reservoir of all opulence, and started for Pulaha Ashram, which is situated in Harivilas. The Shalagrama Stilas are obtainable there. Purport. According to the law of Daya Bak, when one inherits an estate, he must hand it over to the next generation. Bharata Maharaj did this properly. First, he enjoyed his paternal property for 1,000 times, 10,000 years. At the time of his retirement, he divided his property among his sons and left for Ulaha Ashrama. Yeah, he didn't die with his boots on, as we say. He uh, uh, he gave to his sons uh, by uh, by dividing his property among his sons and left for doing tapasya in Pulaha Ashram. At Pulaha Ashram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, out of his transcendental affection for his devotee, becomes visible to his devotee, satisfying his devotee's desire. So it's a very, very spiritual place because you can actually see Krishna. The Lord always exists in different transcendental forms. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Ramadimurti Sukhalani Mena Tistan, Nanavataram Akarod Bhuvane Sukhintu, Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Kumam Yo, Govinda Madhupurisham Tamaham Bhajami. The Lord is situated in as himself, with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. And he is accompanied by his expansions like Lord Rama and Baladeva, Sankarsa, Narayana, Mahavishnu, and so forth. The devotees worship all these forms according to their liking, and the Lord, out of his affection, presents himself as Archa Vigraha, meaning the deity. He sometimes presents himself personally before the devotee out of reciprocation or affection. A devotee is always fully surrendered to the loving service of the Lord, and the Lord is visible to the devotee according to the devotee's desires. He may be present in the form of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, Lord Nrsingadeva, and so on. Such is the exchange of love between the Lord and his devotees. Okay, I think our time is up. Are there any questions? We covered a lot of verses. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? So we see here that in previous times, one had to perform many ritualistic sacrifices, and they were complicated, and it required having a lot of money to do it. However, in by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, this uh, age called Yuga, Simply chanting the Hare Krishna mantra purely without any material, let's say, goal. The only goal is to please the Lord by chanting his holy names. One satisfies Krishna and is the Yuga Dharma, that is the recommended way in this age to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is by performing Harinam Sankirtan. So we don't have to do these very difficult and complicated yagyas that were recommended in previous ages. We simply have to worship the Lord by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra continually without any materialistic desire. Then the Lord will give us everything necessary to be successful in this life and go back to Godhead. Okay, so that's much better than having to perform very expensive yagyas as they did in previous lifetimes. We don't have that much wealth anymore. And to be able to perform yagyas that could last for 1,000 or 1,000 times 10,000 years. We can't even live, 100 years. But obviously, previously, destiny fixed the time for Maharaj Bharata's enjoyment of material opulence at 1,000 times 10,000 years. We're nowhere near such a lifespan as that. So, but if we continually chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and worship the deity with love and devotion and engage in Harinam Sankirtan, we can attain the same perfection as Bharat Maharaja. But we're not gonna live in the material world in our material bodies for 1,000 times 10,000 years. I can't even imagine that expansion of life. We can hardly live 50 or 80 years and then we die. So, but yet, in those 50 or 80 years, we can become completely Krishna conscious and go back to Godhead. So you see, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, in the age of Kali Yuga, has made everything easy for us to become qualified to go back to Godhead. Simply chant Hare Krishna and give up all sinful activities. That's all. And the Lord will bless us to go back to Godhead. Okay, so I think we'll stop right there. Are there any questions? Okay, our takeaway for today. Ramadi Murti Sukala Niyamena Tistam Anavataram Akarod Bhuvane Sukintu. Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pramam Yo Govindam Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The Lord is situated as himself, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is accompanied by his expansions like Lord Rama, Baladeva, Sankarsana, Narayana, Mahavishnu, and so forth. So all those expansions of the Lord are always within him and can be manifest at his will. The devotees worship all these forms according to their liking And the Lord, out of his affection, presents himself as Archavigraha, the deity. He sometimes presents himself personally before the devotee, out of reciprocation or affection. A devotee is always fully surrendered to the loving service of the Lord, and the Lord is visible to the devotee according to the devotee's desires. He may be present in the form of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, Lord Nishingadeva, and so on. Such is the exchange of love between the Lord and his devotees. This is our takeaway for today. Ramadi Murtisukala Niyamena Tistan Anavataram Akarod Bhavane Sukhintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pamanyo Govinda Madhipurisham Tamaham Bhajami. The Lord is situated as himself, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he is accompanied by his expansions, like Lord Rama, Baladeva, Sankarsana, Narayana, Mahavishnu, and so forth. The devotees worship all these forms according to their liking, and the Lord, out of his affection, presents himself as the Archavigraha, the deity, in these different forms. Okay? Therefore, when we go to the temple, we can see Krishna in the form of Narayana. We can see Krishna in his original form as Krishna. Sometimes we can see him in his baby form, baby Krishna, and in different ways, but they're all the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And our takeaway is the following. A devotee is always fully surrendered to the loving service of the Lord, and the Lord is visible to the devotee according to the devotee's desires. He may be present in the form of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, Lord Nishinga, Deva, and so on. Such is the exchange of love between the Lord and his devotees. Okay. That is our takeaway for today. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Are there any questions or comments? Any questions or comments? Okay, so our takeaway, like I said, is a devotee is always fully surrendered to the loving service of the Lord. And the Lord is visible to the devotee according to the devotee's desires. He may be present in the form of Lord Rama, Lord Shiva, Lord Nishingadeva, and so on. Such is the exchange of love between the Lord and his devotees. Hare Krishna Mahamantra Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We will end the day today by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
We begin the day by chanting Hare Krishna. We continue throughout the day chanting Hare Krishna, and we end the day by chanting Hare Krishna. Therefore, Krishna has made everything easy for us in the age of Kali Yuga, the worst time to live in the material world, because there's so much hodgepodge nonsense going on. But by simply chanting, we can wade through all the nonsense and be perfectly dedicated to Krishna without any, let's say, hindrances. Why? Because we'll be protected by Krishna if we always chant the holy names of the Lord. Haribol. Okay, so any questions or comments?
Don't see anybody online.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Um, a lot of Hindus they worship the demigods to get quick results, as they say Lord Krishna is difficult to approach, as they don't understand him as the Supreme Lord. How do we explain this to them? Thanks.
Well, we have to give the Vedic knowledge, bona fide uh, knowledge of who Krishna actually is. So when Krishna is in this form as a baby, most people can't understand how can he be the supreme God, just a little baby. But actually, he has all the powers. He has what is called Eka Rasa. It doesn't matter if he appears in his form as a baby or as an adult or as a teenager. He always has all his opulences with him. Therefore, we can understand how Krishna is unique. Like, for example, when there's a baby, he doesn't have the powers of an adult. Krishna, even in his little form as a baby, has all the powers of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he possesses what is called Eka Rasa. He is never less than his absolute powers. Even if he appears as a baby, just like his father, took him uh, uh, away because he was afraid that Kamsa would kill him. But actually, uh, Krishna is not an ordinary baby, although he may appear like that. But he appears like that out of love and devotion that is dedicated to him by his father, who was afraid that Kamsa might kill his baby Krishna. So he reciprocates with his father by letting him uh, protect him and uh, in every way being fully dedicated to serving the Lord. So these type of relationships are transcendently nectarian. When Krishna's father takes him away from the danger of Kamsa, uh, actually Krishna can kill Kamsa very easily, but he relishes being protected by his father and accepting what looks like a helpless situation. But it's only a pastime of the Lord to increase the intensity of love and devotion of his devotees. So, if you can hold and cuddle Krishna appearing as a baby in your arms, obviously you have very deep, love and devotion for the Lord in that form. Okay? But if he presents himself as the Virat Rupa, well, that's a different thing because Virat Rupa is gigantic and all powerful. So it's easier to understand the Lord in his form as a baby or a teenager than you can't cuddle the form of the Virat Rupa, right? Because it's gigantic. So Krishna has all these different forms, and is to satisfy all the different desires of the devotees to see the Lord. All right. Are there any questions or comments? So, whenever Krishna comes, all his incarnations come with him because they're part and parcel of the Lord. So, he is always accompanied by his expansions like Lord Rama, Baladeva, Sankarsana, Narayana, Mahavishnu, and so forth. The devotees worship all these forms according to their liking, and the Lord, out of his affection, presents himself as Archa Vigraha, or the deity. He sometimes presents himself personally before the devotee out of reciprocation or affection. A devotee is always fully surrendered to the loving service of the Lord, and the Lord is visible to the devotee according to the devotee's desires. He may be present in the form of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, Lord Nrsingadeva, and so on. Such is the exchange of love between the Lord and his devotees. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribol, my dear devotees, if there are no questions, we will adjourn and pick it up again, 11 hours from now. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Chant Hare Krishna and be happy. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chant Hare Krishna.